This is the astrology and tarot of the full moon in Aquarius with Alexander and Aster. We're going to be talking about the astrology of the full moon in Aquarius, what it means for you, as well as what's going on in the collective. And there is certainly a lot going on. So, welcome back to this collaboration, Aster. How's it going?
It's going as good as it possibly can. I have a feeling that things are only going to escalate the closer we get to this full moon.
So the full moon Aquarius is happening July 29th at 8:35 a.m. Mountain Time, 6 degrees of Aquarius. So I guess we can start there. I think the first thing to note is that the North and South nodes will have moved into Aquarius and Leo respectively 2 days before, if you're using the true nodes. That is the first indication that the big, I think, story is sort of switching around the full moon, and that we're in for the node switching into Aquarius and Leo for the next relative, I think, 18 months. North and South node being like where like eclipses are happening. It's like the sort of overall narrative that's sort of going on. The North node tends to mean increase, more of something. There's definitely like a sort of karmic vibe to the North and South node too. The South node having kind of a diminishing quality or effect, and it will be in the sign of leaders, which is the sign of Leo. North node, I think, is kind of more in the sign of like collective society. And it is leaving Pisces and Virgo. So, mutable signs, I think, on a personal level. So Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. There's definitely like some kind of shift that's starting to happen where the attention is more on the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. And mutable signs like, there's been a lot of emphasis, I think, on you like the past couple of years with Saturn being in Pisces, with the eclipses falling in your signs and thus the nodes. So we're definitely kind of switching to a new chapter, I think, which will be intensified by the time that we get to the solar eclipse in Leo on August 12th. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention is the nodal shift.
Definitely a lot to get through. I find it funny that, our first recording was this Mercury retrograde. That's really all there is to talk about for this new moon. And, it's like, go within. And it's like, oh shit, we all went within. And now there's a lot on the table that is being discussed with this full moon. With the nodal shift, for me, there's this energy of tension right now where I'm kind of in between like two different worlds. And so I'm hoping for a bit of reprieve when those finally do shift over. So I think that is something to look forward to, is this idea of no longer being in limbo and being given a new mission, let's say. So that is one thing I am excited about. I think it's interesting that there is such a dynamic polarity going on with this full moon. Not only are the nodes obviously have this polar energy, but then we have the sun on one side and the moon on one side. And then we have the largest planet, Jupiter, with the sun on one side and the smallest planet, Pluto, on the other side. So there's this kind of, I want to call it almost like a tug of war effect going on.
First thing I want to say, just the moon first. It's a full moon, so there is a culmination. A culminating action. Your awareness is going to be on something, a lot of action, a lot of things happening. It is also maybe bringing something to fruition in the Aquarius part of your chart. Also thinking back to February 17th, where we had our solar eclipse in Aquarius at the beginning of this year. So this is the full moon to that new moon. So there is something, if you just look at the Aquarius part of your chart first, like what is happening there. And of course, we will get to that with our sign, or with our rising sign horoscopes. But I think thinking to that first and kind of placing our attention there. And like, I'm definitely Virgo moon. So I'm like, okay, start at the top, keep going down, because I'm like, there is a lot happening with this full moon. It feels like super, super, super energetic. I'll say before even getting to the full moon, Mercury station direct on the 24th as well. So in case you're listening to this and, there is like, I feel like we've been kind of in a floaty kind of fugue state, a lot of us, with Mercury retrograde in the water sign of Cancer. And Mercury will be stationing direct square Saturn as well. So there is a feeling of like, okay, on one level, sort of time to get to work. There's like a feeling of like realistically assessing the situation with Mercury square Saturn. It's like, okay, let's get to work. But besides that, like, I guess the first thing I would like to talk about is like a couple sentences on like what Aquarius means, and then get into that conjunction with Pluto first. And then we'll look at the Sun and Jupiter. So maybe we talk about just what the full moon in Aquarius means before we're like blah 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 blah
Yeah,
nodes.
That's pretty smart. So Aquarius, I'm a Libra sun, so a lot of my best friends are Aquarius. That's just how it happens. The sign of intellectualism, thinking. I think out of all, this is even reflected in the tarot, but out of all of the signs, they're the mind of the mind. So they have this ability to think about the way that we think. That often puts them in the role of the outsider, the revolutionary, the person who, like I said, the outsider. It's the person on the outside looking in, the wallflower that sees all of the little interactions that are going on. Is kind of the way that I view Aquarius. And every friend that I have that is an Aquarius exudes these energies on some level. What about you? What is Aquarius for you?
I mean, just like I feel like to me, it's like collective society at large, you know?
For sure.
Like, and definitely there's that polarity between like the group and standing outside the group as well. It is, I think, really for me, like this full moon to me is very dominated by the conjunction to Pluto, and then opposite the Sun conjunct Jupiter. So, because I think this full moon is going to tell us a lot about what Jupiter in Leo is going to be about. You know, just because literally, basically essentially at the full moon, the Jupiter will be, I think, 5 arc minutes from the exact cazimi with the Sun. So like, right, like Jupiter, the planet of growth and expansion and, you know, wisdom and spirituality and, I don't know what else right now, whatever. If you guys know what Jupiter means, we'll get more into Jupiter, but like, Jupiter will be exactly like cazimi with the Sun during this full moon. So I just was like, I've been staring at this full moon for a while, and like you really have to break it into these little pieces to kind of figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So the moon conjunct Pluto first, maybe let's start there. Because this full moon to me is sort of giving like maybe exposing the truth of something, and Pluto can tend to expose the seedy underbelly of things. Maybe like personally as well as like in the collective for sure. Like and like the full moon being an illumination of like, here's like these seedy machinations of that are happening. And I kind of feel like that are happening with people in power or people with a lot of resources. And, it just, there's like an exposing of the truth kind of vibe to this full moon. Is what I get first.
I definitely agree on the personal level and the societal level. This is a full moon about revealing. It is a full moon about revealing what is holding us back collectively, as well as what is holding you back. This is what I love about Aquarius energy, because, you know, on the societal level, it's the revolutionary, where it's able to see from outside of the kerfuffle and you know, say things that may help. But within, on the personal level, it's the part of you that's able to zoom out, that mind of the mind, and say, hey, like, here's some hard truths about ourselves. Here are some things that you can really shine a light on and make changes if you want. Like this full moon is definitely about what changes are you ready to make, and let's put action towards that. It's like, I also associate, it's so funny, like in Dungeons and Dragons, the artificer, like I associate that heavily with like Aquarian energy. And so it's like, how do I
very heady intellectual, like how to build things.
Yeah. So like 100%. What tools do I need to like level up? It is kind of what was coming through my channel, at least. And I think that this ties in really beautifully with the fact that this first decan of Aquarius, where this full moon is taking place, is the same energy as the Five of Swords for my tarot readers out there. And the Five of Swords talks about what happens when we win. So if there's been a struggle, if there is something going on that's keeping you held back, like kind of asking yourself questions like, well, what does a positive outcome look like? Do I have to tear myself down to win this battle? That the answer is not always yes. What is the prize of winning this battle? Is this battle worth it to me? The fives in tarot have a lot to do with tension, and it's interesting that not only is this being shown in the decan of Aquarius, this kind of inner turmoil, but also where the sun is the Five of Wands, which is more tension because the fives tend to be some sort of conflict in tarot. And so again, it kind of emphasizes this effect of this tug of war that's going on, not only with the planets, but with the decans themselves. And so I would say that within yourself, what are the things that are holding you back? Is this battle worth it to you to overcome, or are you going to allow yourself to be overcome by it? But then also on the societal level, right? So in the Five of Swords, we have these characters who are in a coliseum, like you can't really see, but this looks like an ocean to me. Or sorry, this is technically an ocean, but from afar, I see this as like the stadium of a coliseum. And you have these people here who are fighting each other for valor, for victory. But at the same time, who are they fighting for? If these people are fighting each other for entertainment, like, is it worth the win to battle with people that you're being pit against? Or should you zoom out and understand that this is a coliseum and maybe the coliseum itself needs to be taken on? Maybe the environment needs to be taken on. Maybe the emperor needs to be taken on. So I just think it's really interesting parallels that you can make there. But
yeah, that's definitely a Leo Aquarius storyline, I think. Is, you know, like Leo being the leaders and the king, and Aquarius kind of being collective society at large. And also talking about battles and stuff, when we were noting that Mars in the sign of Gemini, Mars, the planet of action, of conflict, will be square Venus at the time, like exactly at the time of this full moon too, which does kind of speak to like relational tensions. Basically, like there's like a feeling of like I wonder if people are going to be maybe having it out with someone. I mean, that's like generally speaking of like there's some sort of tension around like what we need to say. I think around this full moon, or like maybe speaking to a profound truth that is uncomfortable, which is Pluto as well. Because Pluto can often be about like the shadow, like, you know, your personal shadow, or things that are coming up that are maybe like ready to be let go of or healed or like released or something. And it's not a comfortable feeling. Pluto's not a comfortable energy. But there is a profound truth energy to this full moon. And like meanwhile, while Venus and Mars technically astrologically like are not involved with the aspects around this full moon, they're still coming to a precise square. So there is a feeling of like relational tension. I need to have something out with someone or speak to, like there is a feeling of like we need to have like a debate about something with Mars and Gemini, you know, or so yeah. I do think this is a really good full moon to like release something, to do some kind of shadow work or any kind of tuning in spiritually to your guides or your higher self, unconscious, whatever. I think with the conjunction of Pluto and all of the trines, or all of these trines and sextiles, the Barbault's basket stuff that everyone's talking about, I just think lends itself to like really interesting energy coming in the full moon, like metaphysically. Like I'm like, damn, like you know, it's almost like I just wonder if people across the board, like if I'm gonna get super woo woo, like this is very much like people are getting downloads like left and right, or like having a dream that comes true, or like a prophetic dream or something. Not to get off topic, but that's just what I keep seeing in the chart too.
Yeah, who's to say Barbault's basket isn't the urn of this Aquarian full moon, right? So what is it pouring into your life? And as you drink it, what kind of enlightenment is happening? It's the clarity of the basket or the urn or the vessel, right? And I think because Jupiter is playing such a heavy role, it's almost like Jupiter it had this dip with Barbault's basket. It got the downloads from the other planets and is now carrying this into the cazimi sun to be reflected by the moon so that we can use this energy how we need to. I definitely associate this full moon with the idea of banishment. And so what parts of you are you needing to take a real hard truth at? And we'll see this in my predictions as well. But what parts of you do you need to take a look at and understand that this has been holding you back, and now you have the energy to banish it if you choose to accept this? It is, again, that zooming out of Aquarian energy so that you can view yourself for all of the different parts and then do with those energies whatever you need to. There's this idea too of Five of Swords being this mental conflict of comparison and defeat. So like, are you comparing yourself to others? Is that leaving you feeling defeated? And then with the Five of Wands, where the Sun is and Jupiter is this idea of the struggles of like competition and strife. And so it's like, this is really a good time for you to banish all that is not your individual self, and to kind of release some of those voices and including the inner voices that are holding you back as well.
So with Jupiter being sort of nestled in the sun, and like the sun representing divine information, like, sort of Jupiter sort of getting its instructions. And Jupiter also, I think Jupiter can represent collective liberation to some degree as well as Uranus. I think they both can like represent that. If we look at the Leo part of this, Leo and the sun representing like your spirit and like your creative like self-expression, and like really like there's something about like, it sounds very basic, but like expressing who you truly are without any without anyone else sort of telling you what you should be or what you should create. It's coming in with this full moon energy with the sun conjunct Jupiter. Sun conjunct Jupiter, to me, like there is something, it's so interesting because the moon conjunct Pluto can feel very dark, or it can feel kind of scary, like connected to the underworld. But Sun and Jupiter is like what is really bright, like what is really optimistic. It's like this little jewel in the heavens. And so it's interesting. So like if I'm looking at even just in your personal chart, like maybe something really positive is starting to unfold in the Leo part of your chart with Sun and Jupiter. And there's something coming up that's sort of like, I need to face a fear, or or I'm embracing some sort of profound truth in the opposite part of my chart. Or we could even maybe apply those themes to, those things might be getting kind of mixed around in the Leo and Aquarius sort of parts of our chart. I do kind of want to mention that Jupiter will be opposing Pluto as well, right? And there is something about powerful people with lots of resources in their machinations, like conspiracies and quest for power, seeking more resources, power dynamics under this full moon as well. So I do wonder if there's something about maybe it could be people kind of going wild with conspiracy theories around the full moon, but I think it also could be like, some of these actual things maybe being exposed under full moon too. I did want to mention too, the inauguration chart of Donald Trump's this term was forget exactly when. It was January 20th, 2025, and that chart had the sun conjunct Pluto, which is just again very like overarching kind of fascist vibes, and I think it's interesting to see that this is almost like a full moon of that chart, essentially, because that was the sun at 1 degree of Aquarius conjunct Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius, and this full moon, it's kind of a full moon of that chart because this chart is at 6 degrees of Aquarius. So I do wonder. I mean, I don't wonder. I do feel like I know. Like, I just kind of wonder what's going on with like world leaders at this time. As because we've seen some pretty interesting stuff around Lindsey Graham, and I think Mitch McConnell is dead also too, FYI. I think that's all bullshit. I think he's dead. And it's interesting that the nodes switching around this time, because it does suggest like a change of those in power. Especially with the South Node being in Leo, South Node being a diminishing quality among like people in power or like leaders and things like that. I think also now would be a good time to mention Saturn retrograde, because when we look at the moon and all its, like when we look at a full moon or a new moon, we want to consider what aspects it's making, what sign it's in, but also the planet ruling that sign, because that is going to also tell us kind of what's going on. It's like a guiding force around that new moon, or like the guiding planet in Aquarius traditionally is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn will have gone retrograde on, I think it's 2 days before. Let's see.
Isn't Saturn completely stopped at this moment?
Yes. So it goes retrograde July 27th. And that's 2 days before the full moon. So it's stationary. So it basically looks like it is not moving. And Saturn is, as we know, is a planet that rules like elders. It rules long-term things. It rules like structure and
law.
Yeah, well, Jupiter rules law too. So I think Jupiter is more the glue of society and law. Saturn is like consequences, I kind of more think, and and it is in its fall in Aries right now. And I think Saturn also just like rules like structure, like the way that we've sort of always done things. And Saturn's entrance into Aries this year is conjunct Neptune. And that story is still playing out. And Neptune brings a sort of dissolving of some kind of structure. Again, I feel like I repeated this many times, but we had a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in 89. And that was connected to the fall. Yes, exactly. Yeah, both our birthdays. We're both Saturn Neptune conjunction babies. So that is connected to like the fall of like the Berlin Wall and all these international things changing and boundaries changing as well. Saturn Neptune is connected to like shifting of boundaries and how we draw boundaries. Which is interesting when we're talking about like gerrymandering in the United States and stuff and voting districts. So Saturn in Aries to me is like kind of the fall of like the social order and like how we have been doing things, essentially. Like just things are just not feeling, whether it's like infrastructure or how our society is like all kind of, connected together and leaders and things like that. This is a very weak time. It's a very kind of a time of weakening things and dissolving of things. So I do think that there is something really loud about, and also like when a planet is stationary, when it's like there, lots of little exclamation points around that planet. So, go ahead.
Saturn stationary just feels like mommy is putting her foot down.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like I truly am unmovable in this moment. And I think that when you have that moment, even as a child, like growing up, like when your mom does that, there's like this moment of like, oh shit, I better change what I'm doing. Or like I'm really about to suffer a consequence. And so I think that Saturn, especially going retrograde right now with this lunation, it again talking about this idea of self-reflection and banishment and societal reflection and banishment. Like what can we not allow anymore? And like what do I need to do to get my act into gear? What do we need to do as a society to get our act into gear? I don't know. Whenever I see these angles, this is just the image that's coming through. And my opinions on Saturn being a woman, so
we talked about this. Yeah, I think astrology. Sure. Are we just going to give Saturn she her pronouns from now on?
I'm fully
willing. Yes. So okay, I don't remember the sources, but there are apparently some sources that refer to Saturn as like a feminine energy. And we were talking the other day as I was laying on my deck stretching, and we we're just like blabbing. And we were both just like, Saturn is, let's give her she her pronouns. It's because it's like people are too afraid to give that power to a woman. And we're like, it would be interesting to like, I wonder how my brain would think about Saturn if I'm giving her
Yeah, I mean,
she's she her to me. That's a she. That's a woman.
we were talking about that. This has been an idea that I've held on to for quite a long time. And what you're saying is right. The idea that Western philosophers were not willing to give a woman that much authority because it is the planet of authority. And then even thinking about like the signs that are associated with Saturn, like Aquarius and Capricorn. We even give Capricorn, who is an earth sign, quote unquote, masculine daddy Capricorn energy. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
really, is it daddy Capricorn or is it leather mommy Capricorn? Like you make your choice.
By the way, I saw the Odyssey last night.
Oh, I haven't watched it.
Well, I went to see it in IMAX and it was worth every penny. I like one of the best viewing experiences I have ever had in my life. And I'm sitting thinking about Cersei, who I didn't really know much about mythologically. And I was watching it and I was like, that's best supporting actress of this entire picture. But of just her maybe having this sort of, because Saturn it traditionally can be represented with like, can be associated with like the occult and like witchcraft and things like that. And she showing up as this feminine Saturnian figure, like, you know, so anyway, go watch it if you want to see. I have something to mention with that, with the moon trine Neptune later, and like the hero's journey and all of that. And I think the Odyssey is like going to be one of the biggest like moments pop culturally like of this year too.
That's exciting.
So what was I mentioning with? I want to go back to Saturn retrograde. There is, I think, really interesting stuff happening with Saturn and Aries figures, because Saturn and Aries really has no tolerance for social decorum and like, let's all be polite and get along and try to make things work. This is sort of like, I remember Catherine Urban, a really amazing astrologer, was talking about like Hunter Biden being a Saturn and Aries figure. Sort of gaining popularity and notoriety by being really brash and sort of having like no tolerance for like, oh, let's be polite, sort of, you know, like, fuck this, fuck that. This is basically like how it is. And so leaders connected to not really having any tolerance for like sort of polite hand holding, let's all get along kind of energy. Like this is like, can we just fucking get these problems solved now? Who gives a fuck about this or that? Let's get things done.
I mean, that's the energy that I feel like we have to enter and embody as a humanity, where it's like, I don't really give a fuck about the Republican Democrat conversation anymore. I really need us to focus on the bigger thing. What is going on in our environment? What is going on in our food? What is going on in the way that, again, kind of going back to this Colosseum metaphor, where it's like we're being pit against each other to prevent advancement, to prevent a lot of things. And then two, Saturn being in fall, right? Where exalted, it's Libra, it is cordial. It is this energy of like, okay, this is how we balance the scales and everything is perfect. And then Saturn in Aries is like, yeah, I don't care what this idea of perfect looks like to you.
Time?
There are
we don't have
problems.
Time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I do want to, the wealth and power inequality comes up a lot around this full moon. And I think class and wealth power inequality is the number one issue that can unite people of, you know, like this, because power or Pluto can be represent extreme power and resources by a collective few. And so something is happening with new leaders coming in, fall of old ones. And then also, I want to say too, on an individual level, your own individual sovereignty as well.
From and like, exactly.
Yes.
From your history, from old identities, from social groups that may be holding you in place. This whole thing screams release and freedom from binds, which again ties into this idea of banishment, where it's like, what needs to be removed? I think that's my big question for this full moon. It's like what's a good word for Aquarius? For your cohesion, it may require banishment.
Also, like, what are you releasing? What are you banishing? And then also, like, what sort of spiritual wisdom are you attaining? Like, what
With the
goal do you want
Jupiter.
to go after? Like, what thing are you setting your sights on that's really going to bring something like beneficial and growth oriented into your life with that Sun Jupiter conjunction? So I would say, even just if you're not going to do some like ritual or something around the full moon, at least pay attention to what you are feeling, like what I really want to like bring more of into my life, what I want to set out to achieve. Do something around this time maybe that would bring yourself in alignment with that, whether it is symbolically or maybe taking some action. Like for me, and you can just feel this like intuitively. You don't have to do this based on your chart, but I know like for me, Jupiter is in Leo is my 10th house of career and like things I want to accomplish and my public persona and stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's like put energy more into growing like my big career, not like focusing on like little things. So, um, let's talk about maybe, do you want to talk about the different aspects that the moon is making to like the outer planets now?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely start with Moon, Pluto, what is it? Squaring? No.
So,
Sextile, Neptune.
It'll be trine. No, you're right. It'll be a sextile to Neptune. I was thinking the sun.
Wow, yeah, the sun is also trine. So Neptune is trining the sun and Jupiter and sextiling the moon and Pluto. Yeah, that's such, and it's retrograde. So it is very, and I think that's one of the things that makes this moon hard to talk about, because it's very loose and ethereal and ungrounded, I would say.
I don't necessarily, I'm not getting ungrounded from it.
You don't think Neptune retrograde is ungrounded?
No.
Oh.
I don't. I think it's more about like maybe revealing where you have deluded yourself a little bit, or revealing like a little bit about where. And I think it's more. I get less of the negative associations with Pluto or with Neptune when it's a softer aspect. Anyway, I do think this. For me personally, I think this is a connection to creative and spiritual inspiration. And because it's Neptune and Aries, the sign of the warrior, this is a call to action, or this is a call to collective action. Like, what is your vision, and taking action upon what the mission is. And there's also something I think with mythical storytelling and like the hero's journey also connected into this too with Neptune and Aries. And that's what I was talking about, the Odyssey. Like, side note, pop culture, I do think that capturing kind of the imagination of people, I think there's something to be said about that.
What I see is the potential to get lost, which I guess is a part of the hero's journey. But how do I put this? Don't lose yourself in wanting to fit into others' expectations. Is kind of what I'm seeing here. There's this idea of how much of yourself are you sacrificing in order to manifest this thing that you think that you want, but maybe in this situation, it's not the most desirable thing for you or the most logical thing for you.
Yeah, I'm not in alignment necessarily with that, but that might be helpful to some people. Fine. But I'm definitely getting more. I think this is this full moon, like for any kind of spiritual sort of journeying or dreaming, connecting to the other realms. I think because Neptune is retrograde so much, it's retrograde like half the year.
Yeah.
That being said, it does go retrograde earlier this month, but I think Neptune retrograde can be more about like helping you to maybe understand where you've deluded yourself a little bit.
And I think with that dream work, the point that I'm trying to make is that like, don't get lost in the symbolism. Like, don't become deluded by the things that you are seeing. Take it in the most logical way that you possibly can, because we have to remember that symbols are symbols and they are not always to be taken at face value. And so what is the logical outcome of the symbols that you are seeing? Because if you take it too literally, there's an opportunity to become ungrounded, is kind of what I'm getting at with the the retrograde Neptune, where there is a potential to get lost in the dream, let's say, or there's a potential to like, I'm writing about the underworld a lot recently, and so there's this potential to get lost on your way to the underworld or in the symbols that you're pulling from the underworld. Yeah, I just worry about, especially this within the spiritual community, this idea that we take things at face value, like, oh, this thing is talking to me, or this thing is indicating that I am of this galactic lineage. And it's like, really, like, what's the symbolism there? What is the logic that you can pull from this, as opposed to taking something at like immediate, like, oh, I am this sparkle butt, like.
I think with just because it's a sextile, it's not the main feature of the full moon, though. Like, to me, it's more of a harmonious.
Yeah, I might be talking more about Neptune retrograde in general right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that with there is this disillusionment, I think, that happens with the full moon itself.
Yeah. What about, so then we have, it is, and also it should be noted too, it's technically like a separating aspect to Neptune in Uranus, but I'm not going to say for this full moon, I just am like, by separate, like when the moon is making a separating aspect, like it's not as strong as if it were moving towards it. But at the same time, it's like, I just am kind of, I think the most important aspects are the conjunction to Pluto, the opposition to Jupiter and the sun, because those are hard aspects, are really, really loud. But then we have the trine to Uranus, the planet of revolution, of awakening, of like ingenuity. And I just keep getting this feeling on this full moon, like there's just a lot of like, feel like on a metaphysical, spiritual level, like if you were to tune in around this full moon, there's just a lot of energy coming in, like to be harnessed for creating some sort of like new story and paradigm in your life. Like that's kind of what I think, this supposedly like this Barbault's basket, this like large configuration of all these outer planets talking to each other. Of there's just a lot of it just almost feels like if you just sort of tune in and meditate and connect to your guides and higher self and whatever, there's just a lot of information coming in. And so just a really powerful time to just sort of sit with like whatever messages you're getting. But with Uranus, there's definitely something around like collective liberation, I think, around this full moon, and also like new information about like, hey, I've always done things a certain way. Let's kind of change it up a little bit. And because it's a trine, it's giving you just enough of this like jolt. It's not like sudden changes and like pivot points and U-turns. It's more just like, oh, like there's a pleasant enough of this sort of electricity, of this Uranian kind of electricity to maybe prompt some insight or illumination, or just do things like a little bit differently, sort of what I'm getting here.
Yeah, I mean, I see the Jupiter-Sun conjunction almost very like the energy of Olympus, where it's like this kind of celestial, on high, light energy. Maybe different people call it different things, but it's this idea of, especially with Uranus plugged in there as a sextile, this idea of like Christ consciousness. I have to be careful when I say these things, but like this idea of awakening and Christ consciousness, the return of Kukulkan, the Kundalini awakening, like all of these things very much feel like this tight aspect where it's like, oh, I'm being filled with so much energy that something is being revealed. And now that something is being revealed, I must put action towards it to maintain that energy.
Yeah. Well, and if we haven't mentioned this already, like, we're all these planets that we're referring to, like the outer planets are really associated with like generational change, like larger sort of cultural changes, and so Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto are all locked in this like 4-degree Gemini, Aries, Aquarius sort of series of trines and sextiles with each other. And then here comes Jupiter, this planet that is also associated with like the glue and fabric of society and kind of where we're going and kind of morality and law. as well as growth, expansion, and change, plugging into all of these series of aspects along with the sun. So it's really lighting up like everything. So it does feel like we're, on some larger level, and I don't think that we can know the full story also once we're in it too. It's hard to see everything that's happening, but it's, we're in some sort of bigger shift basically, which is what this full moon is kind of representing. So just in case that wasn't clear, like there's just a lot happening. Uranus, we mentioned Saturn and Aries, being going retrograde at the time of this full moon. And by the way, if definitely if you have stuff around 14 Aries or 14 Capricorn, Cancer, or Libra, you might feel that a little bit too, of like, just like a need for like making sure that your structure is solid and good foundation, etc. But again, if there's some TikTok astrologer being like, oh my God, Saturn retrograde, it's going to change everything. I'm like, well, like it's retrograde half for like, I think 5-6 months a year. But definitely worth noting if you have something like in the middle of those cardinal signs, you might be feeling that a little bit too. Oh, you do? Oh, good luck.
No, I mean, my T-square is all at 9 degrees. So close,
okay,
but not
okay.
super.
It stations direct at 7 Aries, by the way, on December 10th is when it goes direct again. So I guess if we're talking about the Aries part of your chart, which is, I think, also important with this full moon, thinking about the Aries part of your chart, thinking about what is working and not working in the Aries part of your chart, basically too, or maybe having to kind of like revisit something a little bit, or there's some sort of new like dimension of the story. And like I mentioned at the top as well, Saturn stationing retrograde, it is squaring Mercury in Cancer, the planet of communication that has just gone direct. So I was kind of thinking like taking a realistic or sobering like approach to things. Like we have the plan, let's slowly get to work. Because Mercury in Cancer has sort of been like, what is the plan? I don't know what the plan is, or like, why isn't it working? I don't know.
Of being lost in that plan. And then, literally almost as soon as Mercury goes direct, Saturn goes retrograde. And it's like, okay, bitch, well, if you didn't handle it then, you about to handle it now.
I want to go back to what you're saying with Neptune retrograde, because I think I'm more in agreement, but accidentally, by the way, because Jupiter will be completing that trine to Neptune. So I think like making those Neptune things a little bit louder, because with Jupiter and Neptune, you can definitely get lost in the sauce, or like lost in like what you're talking about with like the spiritual imagery and stuff. I do think it's more supportive though. I don't think it's necessarily, I don't get as much of like a danger, but I think definitely something to keep in mind, like when you are meditating or something and you're like, again, like you mentioned, like, my God, I feel like I'm like a starseed or something. And I'm like, there might be something there, but maybe don't take it literally at face value. Yeah. So I do want to back you up, but I do want to say, I do think it's more constructive and helpful than
it can be, if you allow it to be, if you choose to let it.
Yeah.
But you have to have the logic in there.
It's less of a red flag because it's not, it's this like supportive kind of more flowing energy. But I want to maybe add a little bit of emphasis to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this idea going back to just the full moon in Aquarius, this idea that it is a moment of banishing certain parts of ourselves that may be holding ourselves back. And I think that some of that is holding a lot of people back. And then you have like Mercury squaring Saturn right now. And so, Mercury is also logic.
I think there's like a need for being somewhat grounded, because I think this full moon is like, whoa, like, so having like at the end of the day being like, yeah, I need to clean my litter box and like do my laundry and like not take everything at face value and like be a human being. So, okay. Is there anything else that we want to talk about?
No, I think we get into the rising.
Okay, so we're going to get into rising sign horoscopes now. We'll start with Aries and go through Pisces. Everything will be timestamped, so you can jump to your rising sign. If you're watching on YouTube, say hello to my cat. It won't leave me alone. Hi, Ina. Hi. She's Aries in my chart because Aries is my 6th house of pets.
Oh, I was going to say, how is she related to Aries? And you nailed it.
Yeah. Well, she is also loud She's not being loud right now.
So bad news, Anana. I got the tower reversed.
No, she's scared. That's awful. Okay.
Yeah, and the tower reverse is really the only time you want to see the tower, so I guess it's not that bad. I have like the energies of like a storm has passed, so this is like the quiet after the storm. Like winds are dying around you, and now is the time to take a moment to pause and reflect over the last couple weeks, like maybe even the last 6 months, if we're tying it back to the new moon earlier this year. So, have we lost our temper at someone? Like, did they deserve it? Like, how can you take this moment to start your rebuild? One of the things that came through when I was thinking about this card is lightning only strikes twice in the same place if you let it. And so now is a really good time to review, like, what was my role in this situation? What can I learn from this? Maybe even ask a friend or like a tarot reader or an astrologer for advice on how to proceed or how to move forward. There is nothing wrong with getting help. I know that this is a lesson that Aries is going to re-encounter over and over again throughout their life. But I really just feel this big energy around reflection of your role in your groups, in your society. What do you think?
The full moon for Aries rising is happening in their whole sign 11th house. So some profound truths being revealed around or this kind of more intense energy and illumination of completion around your various social circles and friends and people that you are
Right.
affiliated with, whether it's like an official group or club or organization that you belong to, or something with colleagues, or online communities. It doesn't have to be anything bad. It could just be like, yeah, I actually, we just intense sharing with other people. And then also thinking about, was there kind of some maybe beginning or something that initiated in February 2026 when we had a solar eclipse there,
Mm-hmm.
or something around power dynamics, with these sort of groups or something like that. Perhaps you were being connected to powerful resources, connected to groups as well. Like if you're looking to further career or something, might not be a bad idea to join up with like someone who has a lot more resources or power than you
Mm-hmm.
in some sort of like networking group or something like that. It is also opposing. There's also something interesting happening in your fifth house of creativity, romance, hobbies, things that you're giving birth to, pregnancy, children, some sort of growth or expansion or something optimistic in that part of your chart, with that Sun Jupiter cazimi. Although realize too that you're maybe going to be letting go of something or balancing something out there with the South Node as
Right.
well. So like there is like a bright spot in kind of one of the most fun parts of your chart too. So those two parts of your chart will be popping off this full moon. Also, Saturn retrograde for Aries rising as well.
Mm.
Um, if you've been carrying more responsibility, if you've been feeling more of like a sense to like sort of level up or adult up more in your life, or a sense of like your priorities or something heavy around those things, it's like we're maybe going to be managing those in a different way or just sort of thinking about those differently, or that's going to kind of shift with Saturn retrograde. And you might be thinking about the ways that you've been maturing, or sort of dealing with maybe those harder kind of Saturn, sort of those kind of heavier Saturn energies, since Saturn has entered your sign in February. Yeah, in February
Mm-hmm.
this year as well. So definitely like a reckoning since that solar eclipse in Aquarius, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much in line.
So Taurus rising, definitely a really, I think, loud full moon for Taurus, for all the fixed signs for Taurus risings. And so full moon is happening in your 10th house, like reckoning. So there's again full moon completion, culmination, maybe again something that started around February. So 10th house, so it has to do with career, authority figures, your public reputation. Maybe there is a feeling of like I am dealing with a powerful figure in my career, or maybe I am thinking about the things that I need to embrace, like Pluto is like almost like this powerful, secret, shadowy artifact that maybe perhaps I am needing to attain and sort of reckon with all the things that come with it that can shift things in my career for me or shift things in my the way that I'm viewed publicly. And perhaps there's something connected to some kind of power struggle or power dynamic between you and family. Also, too, or something with career and family, or some sort of power dynamic shifting there. But there can be some sort of profound truth or completion or this heightening of energy with career for Taurus rising, and perhaps thinking about how that shifted since the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you're having this conversation around family and career. We have the King of Pentacles inverted as your card for the next couple weeks. Now is the time to think about where your values truly lie and asking yourself to look beyond the appearance of value and to get into the nitty gritty of what is actually valuable to you. So I know the 10th house has been reduced to like our career, and our like public life is slowly making its way into the zeitgeist of popular astrology. But I think it also has this inherent connection to like your purpose and your authority in your life. And so in that exploration, how can we release this connection to King of Pentacles things like money and like the appearance of success and the comfort that comes with success, and instead ask ourselves like, things like family. Like, does family matter more to you? And if so, can we shift some of our energy towards the family side of our life? My homework assignment with this card is to give yourself or someone else something valuable. And I'm not talking about a thing either. I'm talking about like love, attention, quality time, compliments, words, something that has more value than just like a gift, let's say.
Well, and also quite literally too, the sun is conjunct Jupiter in your fourth house of home and family. There's
Okay.
something that you're growing in home and family. There's something that is like what you are. It's not just the big house, it's like the people that live in it kind of
Uh-huh.
vibes too, because with this Jupiter in Leo transit, bigger is not always better,
Yes.
especially with
And
the South Node coming in. It's like there's something there, but it's not about what it appears to be to other people with your
Mhm.
status.
And on the new moon, I mentioned that a new opportunity was coming through. So we had the Ace of Pentacles on the new moon that we just recorded. And now we have the King of Pentacles inverted. And so it's like that opportunity, it wasn't necessarily about money. So most
Mhm.
opportunities that you receive in life will not be about money or will not be related to finances. And so I think that as a Taurus person, as a Venusian ruled sign, we're understanding the deeper meaning of value. And again, we were talking about full moon in Aquarius as this idea of like a reckoning or like a sudden truth. And so is the sudden truth that you're having right now revolving around um, the true value of things and not just thinking about finances. So Gemini rising, I have the Queen of Wands inverted. This card would indicate the need to slow down. um, are you feeling the energies around you asking you to take a break? Like, have you been in your CEO boss, girl boss, boy boss, they, them boss energy recently? If so, now might be the time for recuperation, maybe some fun time with friends, some basically pulling your identity away from advancement and drive and go, go, go. This moon, I think, is giving you the permission to be lazy for like the next couple weeks and to kind of like draw back. Um, and then there is this idea too with this card that busy season is coming soon. And so I'll be honest, I didn't look ahead into the astrology or pull cards on it, but I just feel like Gemini rising, you understand that like the busy quarter is coming. So how can you take advantage of rest in this moment? I would say too, homework for Gemini rising, meditation, slowing down the mind, and preparing yourself for picking speed back up.
Also, with Gemini rising, your ruling planet Mercury is stationing direct a couple days
Oh,
before the full
word.
moon. So, if it's that's stationing direct in your second house of finances and your resources. So, um, slowly getting on track with that, getting a plan together against something realistic because it is square Saturn too. So there is that piece of it. The full moon for you will be in your ninth house. Um, Something um, serious, uh, s- something maybe with a completion or culmination. Again, something that maybe started around February. Connected maybe to your higher mind, to something with like an education matter, maybe something that you've been learning, something to do with travel or other cultures or any kind of way that you expand your mind, something with spirituality. This would be a full moon that I would be watching your dreams, writing them down, because ninth house is the house of prophecy and oracular vision and
Mm,
dreams. And so, or also this could be a profound teaching from a mentor or someone with more wisdom than you. Um, you have also, again, this is opposite Jupiter and the sun in your third house of communications and correspondences and your locality and the people around you. This is like a good year in general to be studying something new, to be learning something new or engaging the mind. And then also attracting helpful opportunities from people around you or your extended family or your friends
mm,
and neighbors. But there is some sort of tension also between these two areas of your chart. So, like travel, like where you're going, the mind, there's some sort of like dynamic tension
mm,
between these two parts of your charts, like quest for knowledge. I need knowledge for something. Um, so yeah, and I just think like having control of your mind and your thoughts, I think can lead to kind of quantum leaps is the vibe with Gemini rising. Cancer rising. I'll take this one. So there's some tension, and tension is not always a bad thing, but there is tension around this full moon. Um, in connection to financial resources, assets, things like that. This full moon is in your eighth house. So this could be like there's a lot of thought, conversation, energy around shared resources, whether that's between you and a partner or things like loans, credit cards, debts, patronage, aid, other people's money and resources. And perhaps you are trying to figure out how to get more of those things or what your relationship is to those things or to like something like inheritance or something like that. Um, there's also something around like intimacy too. Eighth house is like relationships. When relationships get really real, like the emotions and energy that you share with other people. Eighth house, I think, can also be mental health stuff, stored trauma, things like that. So I think there is something about a release here, or a profound realization, or like where I'm carrying that thing from. Also, I want to say too, this is something that's coming in as I'm talking about it. For some Cancer risings, also understanding where you pick up other people's energy and if you're carrying it around with you or not, too, is what I'm getting here. Like, I feel that coming in. And at the same time, there's something that you're maybe seeding now around how you make money, your livelihood and living, and how you support yourself because of that Jupiter Sun conjunction in your second house. And your Mercury right now, too, is like, how best do I take Mercury has been retrograde in your first house. Like your identity, yourself, how you move about the world and what you do for career, you really maybe have been questioning or like how your career kind of operates or what your public, how you're sort of looked at in the public eye. So I think you're having a conversation on how to actually start this new thing that's coming in for you. But I think building your financial resources is sort of on the part of the agenda here. So what'd you get? I keep seeing you
yeah.
nod at
The
me.
two of wands inverted. Feeling stuck before starting something. So literally the last thing you said. The plan may not be moving forward at the pace that you want it to. You have big dreams, but you've yet to take them seriously. So you're just standing over them, watching what could potentially be created without taking action. I think that in order for you to move forward in a way that is sane, that is not going to drive you crazy, you have to start taking your dreams seriously. What parts of yourself are you ready to dissolve? What parts of others are you ready to untether? Like, how are you releasing yourself from the people around you? And also, how are you allowing their expectations of you to drive you? So it's kind of both, right? This is also a really good moon for you to discern what outside of you is holding you back and to banish anything that is doing so. Think about like a couple weeks ago when we talked about the new moon and we talked about like exploring your passions. Like this is a moment to see how do those passions play off with this grand plan that you were like literally on the edge of walking into and like diving into this new reality, but for whatever reason you're holding yourself back on the diving board. And so that's kind of what I got.
Yeah, this full moon being ruled by Saturn retrograde for Cancer rising is interesting just because it's like the restructuring of like career
Yeah.
goals or what you do in society is like 10th house too, you know?
Right.
Um, Leo rising. So definitely a big one for Leo rising.
Yeah.
And I think setting up the solar eclipse in Leo coming next month. But you're really like very much in this new chapter. I don't know if you realize it or not, but you definitely are. So there's something coming to a head in relationships or partnerships for you, whether that is a partner with a human being or person or partnership with like an entity, or like sometimes I see it as like, you're a contract with your employer or job or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're thinking of like, is this relationship serving me or controlling me? I think is something that's coming in with this too, is just because Pluto can be about control and power dynamics. And so, and if we're talking about like a person, it's like, um, like, are we really like seeing each other, or these like little, like, I don't know, like power dynamic things kind of in between us? I do kind of wonder for a lot of my Leo risings if like maybe we are dealing with some more powerful people kind of in our sphere and like on our personal and like our personal sphere and sort of how we deal with that. But there's relationship dynamic stuff that comes in here, a
Yeah.
release of something connected to that. And again, some kind of culmination connected to like February when we had a solar eclipse here. And I do kind of feel like your Leo rising has a lot of growth in the next year that you're starting now to undertake, and this is a big moment for you under this full moon because we are thinking, what do we want to achieve? Like
Uh-huh.
Leo rising, this is a time to be dreaming about what you can achieve, what you want to learn, how you want to expand and grow, what kind of beautiful, new, beneficial things you want to have in your life. Like I really feel like vision boarding and like putting your energy and attention on that. And definitely I'm kind of getting like, hey, like this is a good full moon for like a ritual for Leo rising too, of like like a little candle magic or something, because Jupiter's in your sign, and thinking about what you can be learning, how you can expand yourself, ways that you can grow, ways that you are going to say yes to things. But there is a feeling of like, in order to grow, there is something I have to like be a little bit scared about and just kind of face the fear.
In order to
Go
grow,
ahead.
there's something you have to leave behind.
Uh-huh.
So you're at a threshold right now, Leo. There's a situation or relationship, and when I say relationship too, I don't necessarily mean your primary partner. Like it could be a friend, it could be an argument that you're having with your child, it could be a substance, it could be an application that you're addicted to. Like the list goes on. Like it's your relationship
Uh-huh.
with some sort of entity, as Alex said.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to see eye to eye on this with this entity. this part of you that wants to maintain relationship with this. But right now is a moment where you can choose to Eight of Cups, walk away, say, like, maybe I'm not leaving this person, but I'm leaving this argument behind. Maybe I'm not like leaving the person or the place or the thing, but I am changing my contract with the situation. But something has to change in order for you to have really the revelations that are coming for you. The eight of cups leads to the nine of cups, and the nine of cups is the success that you've been looking for. And so this idea of fulfillment is on the other side of revelation. And yeah, with the sun and Jupiter in the same sign as your rising, like that is the energy of revelation. Like it is.
Also, for as many Leo risings that are going to be expanding in some way and being more known and, gaining recognition, there are going to be a lot of them that I think is going to feel like a fall from grace because there's a
Truth.
lesson about pride and humility with Jupiter in Leo and the South Node going into your sign because the South Node is going to demand, the South Node again has a diminishing quality. So, like learn to eat humble pie sometimes over the next year for
Oh, that's
Leo, I
interesting.
think.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like, hey, like when they go low, we go high kind of vibes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like pride, I think will be some lessons that Leo energy is going to be experiencing and kind of proper
Interesting.
use of power. All right. Virgo.
Yeah.
Virgo
Virgo.
rising. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say Virgo rising, we have the Five of Cups. So looking at the threads of what you once were, there is fear going on in your life. We're afraid to step into the life that's calling us. I do sense some sadness with Virgo, so maybe there's something in the stars going on with that too. But as soon as I saw this card, like my heart kind of dropped into my stomach a little bit. I was like, oh, like what's going on? And it's like this idea of coming face to face that you are the person that must make changes. There's kind of this idea of like the mental image I got was a snakeskin. So like literally slithering and shedding out of like an old version of yourself. There's an opportunity for you to transmute loss to success. The question that came to me when I was analyzing this card, meditating with this card is it me? Am I the problem? So, how can we turn the surrender to truth that we had a couple of weeks ago from this podcast into transformation? Is essentially what I have here.
It's interesting because on this full moon, a couple days before Mercury, Virgo's ruling planet, will be stationing direct.
Mm.
And it will be questions like maybe resolving themselves a little bit or like,
Mhm.
having some track or excuse me, getting on track or feeling like you have like a little bit of a plan or sort of going forward.
Mhm.
Um, and but yeah, this full moon for Virgo rising is in their whole sign sixth house. So like things connected to your physical vitality and physical body, and health things, and just thinking like, um, it's almost like because this full moon is conjunct Pluto, like, yeah, I just feel like this could be like considering like how psychological, spiritual energy or what you put in your body, like how that manifests itself,
Mm.
essentially. This could be powerful new information around health. That this could also be um, things with work, like how you labor your coworkers, things like in your sort of like work surroundings.
Mm.
So this could be a culmination or a realization among like work and health topics. This could be again dealing with power dynamics at work, something connected to that. But also like when you're talking about the Five of Cups, so Jupiter is going into Virgo's 12th house, or Jupiter is in Virgo's 12th house, and that's where that
Mm.
Jupiter Sun cazimi is. So like something around like there's growth healing around the parts of you that are the most hidden, parts that are connected to the subconscious mind, to the hidden beliefs that are sort of influencing you, about how your mental and spiritual health affect your physical reality. It is very connected to like the shadow kind of hidden parts of Virgo. So I don't know if I have anything else to say. I
Yeah,
feel
and
like
I
I'm
like
like
that.
kind of at like a loss. I feel like I'm kind of at like a loss for words here. I just feel like powerful information connected to work and health. There can be stuff with pets as well. I'm not necessarily getting um from the astrology like a I'm not necessarily getting a bummer energy like
Yeah.
you, and I'm not saying that I'm not in disagreement with that.
Yeah, yeah,
But I do feel like with Jupiter going through your 12th house, it's sort of like maybe like ways that like you've gotten it in your own way. I feel like maybe we can
yeah.
kind of see how that has transpired and how we can kind of fix that moving forward. But there could be just sort of dealings with like power or people with power um connected to work and health stuff or profound information coming in about those
Yeah,
things and
I
like
think
where
that,
that where trauma comes from kind of,
yeah,
you know what I mean, and like
with
how
some
that
of
can
that
manifest
is
as
the
health things.
grief that happens when you recognize trauma for trauma,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then understanding what needs to change. And then
Hmm.
oftentimes before that change can happen, we just have to sit with those feelings.
Hmm.
And I think that those feelings may bring up some emotional turmoil for Virgo.
Hmm.
And that's okay. It's part of the process. And I think that, especially for Virgo energy, it's important for y'all to remember that you're not perfect, and that's okay. And the feeling part of this is the healing part of this.
Okay. So Libra rising. The full moon is happening in the fifth house for Libra. So kind of feel like there could be something really powerful that you're giving birth to here, essentially.
Mm,
Like really like just because the full moon is happening in your fifth house, which is connected to romantic things, sexual things, creativity, or where hobbies, passions, things connected to children. So, like this could be like putting something out into the world at this time for Libras that feels like really powerful, or um, maybe your children are sort of going through like a really, really big growth spurt right now too. This could also be like if we're talking about like romance too, this is like, hey, like if I am going to be with someone or partner with someone, I really want to make sure that they're like a good match for my energy. Um, and that I'm like partnering with someone who like really like sees me on like a soul level. We also have the Jupiter Sun conjunction in your 11th house. There's something really maybe beneficial and beautiful connected to your friendships or connected to like your community, to like more of like kind of like your sort of wider communities or groups that you belong to. Maybe help from mentors or help from friends kind of comes in with this full moon as well. And I do feel like whatever kind of intense energy is happening around fifth house things, around hobbies, passions, things we're giving birth to, that we have some lightness around like people that we are connected to
mm,
as well. Also, I will say under this full moon, your ruling planet Venus is square Mars. So
mm,
you're one of those signs that I think relational tensions and just sort of needing to having things out. It could be you like defending your beliefs or talking about your politics or
mhm,
speaking to your spirituality or something, just because that is squaring Mars in your ninth house as well. So I also would say maybe more clarity around like career things for you right now, or they'll start to move forward too, because Mercury is going direct in your 10th house as well. So
mm.
go ahead.
Yeah, I have the Nine of Pentacles reversed. First thing I think whenever I see this is like, you cannot do this alone. And so that was like the sentence that came through. So I was like, okay, noted. Um, and so with that, with some of the things that you're saying, I feel like right now, Libra rising is looking for something easy. Um, but it's important to know that success is not always easy. And like the journey to success sometimes requires work and understanding that like the work that you're doing is something that you are passionate about. Nine of Pentacles inverted also can talk about like feeling financially constrained for some people. And there is this idea of like leaning on your community a little bit, like focusing on the why do you want to be successful? Like what does your success allow you to do versus like hoarding resources or like uh kind of keeping yourself closed off from like spending. I don't know. There's an interesting dynamic going on there. And then one of the things that I felt too is like sometimes we get so focused on the like rat race that we forget to set aside time for pleasure and like again this idea of like money and play. And so it's like we make the money in order to play. Like we make the money in order to spend the money, honestly. And so there's just kind of this idea around Libra rising right now where it's like, what are you successful for? Like and what is the full definition of that success versus chasing down money? I don't know, that was just like a big thing with that card.
There's also shaking something off or clearing some energy through pleasure.
Yeah.
I think through Libra, through fun and pleasure, whether that's like having a really good night with your friends, or having like a friend come through and help you. Also, I think some Libra risings are going to be having some earth-shattering orgasms under this full moon too.
That's so funny.
And I think like creative visualization or manifesting through orgasm might be something you want to consider if you're Libra rising through like masturbation or something.
Interesting.
Is a thing. And just because of that, like that moon conjunct Pluto in your fifth house, it's like intensely getting dick down. Anyway, next thing I wanted to mention with that.
The aspect with Mars, too.
Yeah. Intensely getting dick down. Also, ruling planet of this full moon is Saturn. It is retrograde in your seventh house of relationships. Something maybe is changing in your relationships, whether you are really figuring out where your true supportive relationships are in your life and figuring, like there's definitely some shift with those over the past few months of like really committing to a partner or having a separation from a partner too, with some Libra risings as well. And then we're just really kind of figuring out like the value of like relationships partially with this full moon as well. Okay. I was like saying that and I was like, actually shout out to my Libra rising partner.
I was kidding. I was going to say it. Like I was like, this feels like I don't know the word, or it's like this is personally beneficial for me to say.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that until I was like, oh yeah, my partner's Libra rising. I was like, the earth-shattering orgasm. Let's make that happen.
Sure,
so anyway, moving on. Hey, Scorpio rising. We have a full moon in your fourth house. So something with home and family can literally be coming up right now. That could be, it's, something connected to a change of home or what we're doing with home. I think with the fourth house, with Pluto in the fourth house, it's like, hey, this could be part of some more long-term profound changes in your home life or in your family of origin. Like generational changes, just like, hey, like my grandparents are certain, like I'm not saying like, oh, someone dies or it's just kind of more thinking about Pluto being about those long-term transformational changes around how you create your family, how you create your home, on what your family of origin and family look like. This could be some sort of hidden profound truths as well, because fourth house can also just be stuff in your psychological kind of basement in your inner self. And again, and also like, there is something work career for Scorpio because the ruling planet of this full moon is Saturn retrograde in your sixth house of work, of how you take care of your physical health and physical body. Pets can kind of fall in there too. So we're like, hey, there's, how does my work support me right now? Are these structures in place how I need them to be to support me in my life? Because there is going to be something that's going to start to unfold in the most visible part of your chart, which is your 10th house, which is, again, career, your public reputation, sort of what you're out there doing in society and what you are known for. This is a time, I think, of more visibility for Scorpio rising, which can be uncomfortable for Scorpio energy. At the same time, there's something maybe that we're going to start to let go of here too, because the South Node will be coming into the 10th house as well.
Scorpio rising, Page of Pentacles. This is a possible financial opportunity. When I drew this card, I had actually just finished propagating one of my plants. And so the thing about it is it was an aloe. So I had to like cut the bottom. And so there is a loss of some kind to like the main plant. But then like when you move the plant over to new soil so that it can root, so something right now is taking root. It may be hard to see the alchemy that is going on with this propagation, but understand that there is something going on underneath the surface. Something is happening. Perhaps recently you had some sort of cut or some sort of like transplanting energy. And although it seemed like something small at the time, understand that like it's going to be growing and it's going to be becoming more of a priority in your life. So right now, just allow it to rest, allow it to do its thing, keep doing what you're doing. Don't pull up the plant to like make sure the roots are growing, right? So like let the plant be in the soil and ask yourself like with this loss, like what is now allowed to grow? That's my big thing.
The fourth house has to do with death too.
And roots.
Also. And returning to the earth roots, your ancestors. Talk to your well ancestors. There is like there is a feeling of like pulling from the underworld, basically, like, or wisdom from the underworld in order to have this like new thing in this like really public kind of aspirational part of our chart. And I would also spend time like envisioning that, because this full moon again is sextile Neptune in the 6th house of work and health and Uranus in the 8th house of finances. So it's like there is all those things kind of coming in with it too.
Absolutely. Sagittarius rising. I had the
perfect
King of Wands. King of Wands is asking you to claim your authority. You are a leader. This is more about downloading your fierce resolve, but also with the King of Wands, I always have to mention that humbleness is required. And so what I'm asking Sagittarius rising right now to do with this full moon is to step into the idea that you can be unshakable. You can be unstoppable. Like, what does unwavering commitment to your project look like, and how do you physically channel that? A lot of Sagittarius rising, I feel like there's like this fear of like being seen right now. And so how do we overcome that fear? By embodying the King of Wands. Dispel any illusions that may be holding you back for this full moon. Your ruling planet is also cazimi, the sun. So I feel like you're about to get like a burst of a burst of illumination. So just pay attention to what's being revealed to you at this time. I think that on your soul's journey, this is a really important moment for you.
Also, cazimi being a rebirth.
Yeah.
Sagittarius has, I think, a bit of a rebirth with this energy. Because your planet is being reborn. Jupiter's being reborn. And Jupiter is going into a really interesting part of your chart because there is a rebirth. There is a theme of rebirth, I think, connected to this full moon that we danced around but didn't quite get to like, and I'm like, I don't know why we didn't say rebirth, but like, Jupiter going into there's a Jupiter-Sun conjunction in your 9th house, higher perspective, wisdom, spiritual illumination. And that being an important part of your path over the next year of something connected to education, your spirituality, learning something new, travel, mind expansion, spirituality, your beliefs, like your why. There's some important rebirth happening in that part of your chart. And this may come through for you as an important bit of information, a really important conversation, correspondence, some sort of change maybe connected to your environment, or I also want to say the importance of your daily rituals also too right now, because the full moon is in your third house, which is daily rituals. It is pulling your tarot card every day, journaling, like important insights that come through that. Or, a profound conversation with someone at like your coffee shop or something like that, or with your neighbor. This could also just be like, I'm completing a course or a certification, or like I'm, having a long overdue conversation about something, or there could be a, change and connected to like transportation, kind of how you get from point A to point B. But it's like, there's something about like journeying, like the road trip that gives you like some sort of profound insight on something. It's sort of like what we're learning on the way to the thing.
Well, it's the hero's
sort
journey,
of what I'm
right?
getting.
To tie that back in. But it is a claim your crown moment. And I just want, especially the Sagittarius people in my life, I just want you to wear your damn crown. Like, you've worked so hard to be an expert. And I think that sometimes Sagittarius energy in general delays their crowning. And I don't know why.
Interesting. Okay, cool. We'll leave you with that. Yeah, I think we gave Sagittarius reading their reading in riddles today, or vague prophecy.
You know what? That's how they like it.
Like
they like a puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah. Capricorn rising. Full moon for you is in the second house. Important realizations or completion, literally connected to financial things, your assets and resources, how you support yourself. Also maybe thinking like, hey, I could be learning a new skill that would like maybe net me like a lot of money, or help me kind of move up in the world here. Or there is some sort of important realization around the energy of money and resources, or some sort of culmination around like the skills that help you make your way in the world. There is something interesting unfolding in how you trust to other people, or how you are connected to other people and their energy and resources. There's almost like, hey, if you're Capricorn rising, like, and you're, on social or something, or you do something, it might be time to like start a Patreon where you're asking people to donate to you and support you, which I know is hard for Capricorn rising to sort of trust and allow people, allow yourself to collaborate and connect with other people in a way that would like be beneficial to you and your energy. But there's something about like your deep relational things, being vulnerable like over the next year, because Jupiter going through this part of your chart. It's like you're allowing your heart and your inside to be more vulnerable and more exposed. It's going to be kind of where there's some really great gifts and beneficial energy for you. As well as just because that's where that Jupiter Sun conjunction is. So, and on a practical, mundane level too, for a lot of people, this is like, a lot of Capricorn risings this year are going to be like taking out a loan or credit in order to build something, or in order to gain something. Basically, like things with debt, credit, loans, grants, aids, resources, and like resources that are coming from other entities and other people are going to somehow be supportive for Capricorn rising this year, and can help them achieve like their financial and like practical goals, essentially. Also, ruling planet of this full moon is Saturn retrograde in Aries in the fourth house. Considering the structures that you've built, considering your home, family things, like having to rework things, is going to be kind of coming into this picture, basically, too, for Capricorn. I do see new ways of supporting yourself, Capricorn, as well, with the solar, with the North Node moving into that second house, like an increase there. There's like new ways of like supporting yourself or making your way in the world. And again, also consider that this is a culmination of something you started around February with that solar eclipse in Aquarius as well.
So it's really interesting that you bring up this idea of relying on others and pulling other people's into your sphere. I actually have the Hermit, which talks about going alone. And so maybe for this moment, the answers that you're seeking are within. Basically, right now, you have the information that you need to be successful in whatever endeavor you're trying to go after. But my question is like, what are the thoughts that are preventing you from just jumping into the risk, from taking action, from being seen? And I think that Alex's side is the long story. And for right now, this is the short story where it's like, your answer right now is not taking another course. It's not like buying a product. It's not through another person. Right now, it is to remove, like, again, I just replanted things this week, so like I'm very on soil. And there's fourth house energy going on here too. But my image was like, so if you're a soil enthusiast, like you make your own, you know what perlite is? And perlite like dries the soil. It's a drying agent. And so I think that right now, anything that might be drying your sources of wealth should be taken out so that you can kind of balance what you're growing. It may be time to investigate what needs to be added to your soil mixture to help you get past financial blocks. And so I think for right now, everything that you need to set up this thing that's going to draw others in is right in front of you. You just have to utilize the energy to then do the things that Alex described. And so I think that for this full moon, it's what are the things that you need to do alone to start this process that's about to kick off for you?
Yeah, you're definitely walking through the underworld on something before the collaboration energy comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So Aquarius rising, super chill full moon for you, not important. Moving on.
Wow.
Okay, so obviously it's an important full moon for you, something that you began in February, maybe coming to some sort of culmination or like decision point. Um, and this has to do with you, your resume, like who you are, how you approach life, your body, your health, your physical vessel. Maybe like releasing something that you've been carrying for a long time. Um, I think kind of embodying a little bit that chthonic Plutonian energy of like walking someone else across the underworld or walking someone else like across some sort of like intense process or something. But this I think is kind of a transformative full moon for you, just
Mm-hmm.
in general, for you and your relationships. There is something beneficial about your relationships and partnerships, maybe starting some sort of significant new relationship, some sort of significant new alliance, or some sort of contractual partnership this year. Coming in, I think probably especially around that solar eclipse in Leo. And some sort of change is going to be happening, I think, through like yourself and your partnerships kind of coming up. And perhaps it's like releasing something of self or embracing something scary to have some kind of, collaborative kind of partnership. Um, and yeah, what's your take on all
It's
this?
funny. You mentioned the chthonic deities. I have King of Cups inverted, which is Hades, essentially. There's a lot
Okay.
of parallels there. This card talks about the possibility of like emotional upheaval. Maybe like a recent loss is affecting your grounding. And again, this loss could be like a person, a place, a thing, an argument, a conversation, anything that puts you at like a disadvantage. Your thoughts may be telling you things that are keeping you blocked. This is a very you full moon. um, how can this lunation allow you to release some energy, get out of your head, get out of like your emotional response to things? One of the things that I thought about, again, my freaking metaphors are so random this week. But there is this idea with this card too. I had the mental picture of you like doing yoga, but like really feeling your connection to like the mat and feeling the connection to like the ground, um, so that it provides you a firm, like stable energy on which you can then go in. There is like this connection to like the mind body that I'm getting with this lunation for you. Um, Basically, like a couple weeks ago, we talked about like confusion surrounding your energetic field right now. And I feel like if you didn't handle that, then like it's like doubling down where it's like, hey, spend time in isolation, spend time going within, allow the confusion to pass because your best guide is yourself in a place of silence. And so try to find that
Yeah.
with this full moon.
And you are not your thoughts also.
Yeah, so much.
You know, because
so much.
Aquarius energy is so mental, and
Mhm.
like the moon is going to be going through your first house, so it's like definitely an invitation to connect into your body and like your internal
Mhm.
truth rather than spending all your time in your head thinking about it, especially because you're talking about thoughts, and like the ruling planet of this is Saturn stationing retrograde in Aries in the third house, which is your mind, your thoughts,
Mhm.
how you could how your own thoughts and beliefs about the world could like be tripping you up or
Mhm.
something like that too. And also thinking about maybe setting up your daily environment and daily rituals to support you more as well.
Mhm.
And because third house is like what you do every day, like daily rituals.
Wake up and do some sun salutations,
So
bitch.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Anything else?
That's what I got for them.
Okay, Pisces.
I have the Hanged Man, which is interesting actually, because this card would technically point to Neptune in their chart. So I'm curious to see what you see with this. But besides that, this is the card of surrender, sudden realizations. I love that the sun is like behind this guy's head, and this full moon is happening in your 12th house, right? And so it's like the unconscious. Um, let's see. It's a powerful time, I think, to ask your spirits to show you what mindsets and thought patterns need to be released. Kind of similar to Aquarius, I would think. But like, I think that you're on the verge of fully understanding a situation. Again, your traditional ruling planet is cazimi. So just like we were talking about with Sagittarius, there's this idea of like
Mm-hmm.
being rebirthed. And the Hanged Man is a card of feeling stuck, but then being rebirthed in that stuckness. So I would say lean into energies, absorb information, really tune in to the world around you and what seemingly non-magical things may be trying to teach you right now.
Yeah, Pisces rising rebirth. There is a long-term rebirth coming to your part of your chart that deals with your daily labor and work, what your job looks like,
Mm,
coworkers, people who work for you, as well as health, physical body health, and how you take care of yourself. Also, pets can come in here too. Something beneficial long term coming to that part of your chart, or something growth oriented coming to that part of your chart. So like it could be like refreshing health routine, or like now's a good time to quit smoking, things like that, because there is a death and a rebirth kind of energy for you personally connected to your body, connected to this full moon. And this full moon is happening in the 12th house. So there are profound realizations, things that you did not see that you are going to be seeing and understanding now, because the full moon is shining a light on that, on things that we are ready to release and I could definitely see that as like the mundane being profound, basically. And also like how you could get in your own way, your shadow, how you can kind of trip yourself up, or even understanding, hidden influences that are toxic to you, that can trip you up, that are not even you, that are things that you thought were good for you or beneficial, or things that you thought were neutral, like things like that can be 12th house energy. There's maybe something connected to resources, how you support yourself, reworking that a little bit, or how you do that, maybe connected to livelihood or your assets, cash, money, resources, just because Saturn is retrograde in Aries, it rules the full moon, going retrograde in your second house. And Saturn retrograde, it just because Saturn is retrograde, going retrograde right around this full moon, it's like I would maybe pay attention to that too, on how you could. There's some story connected to that too. I think like a reworking of things a little bit as well. So
I see that.
Okay.
Because, the Hanged Man is the energies that you go through right before death, or like a big change, or like some sort of big transition.
Yeah.
And so I can see that reflected in the story of the tarot.
Okay. Do we have anything about like recommended ritual?
Yeah, again, I kind of go back to like, there's just this idea of what needs to be removed. And again, Aquarius being a scientist, it's like, what needs to be dissected? Like, what part of your like energy just needs a scalpel taken to it, and just kind of like, let's edit this for a second to create holistic healing. And it's like, on a societal level, what needs to be banished? Which, do some magic around that. On a personal level, what needs to be managed? Do some magic around that. I think that this is a really good full moon actually for group work and like meeting either in person or online, and ideally in person because chanting works better. And I also associate Aquarius with like spoken word and like chanting, like doing something together with our words, and like, yeah. So that's kind of the vibes that I have there. It's funny, you mentioned Capricorn rising, like changing the way that you're making money. So I just started like an online community. It's not through Patreon, it's through like my own app. So that's fun and exciting. And I guess I'll plug that. It's down there below. So you can join there. But I'll probably be posting something a little bit more long form in writing there. That's my chosen media. So any ideas for ritual for you? But that's really what's just coming to my mind.
I just think it's a really good time to go in and get insight. Yep. Like connect to your spirit team. If you've like wanted to be like, I like to maybe see if I could talk to my spirit guides and see if they're there. This is the full moon to do it.
Oh, okay, totally.
Like, because the connection, especially the connection to the outers, like it can connect us to what is beyond this physical existence and like the higher realms. I really do feel that.
Word.
And especially connecting it to profound truth or things, connecting to the dead, connecting to beings that feel outside, like that are so alien to our physical existence. Pluto and Uranus I associate with extraterrestrial energy as well. So like I just feel like if you meditate and go within, like, and you're like set your intention that you want to talk to your guides or loved ones on the other side, this is a full moon to bring them through.
I totally feel that.
I did want to mention too, like I was guided to create a full moon event. I don't know what I'm calling it, full moon circle. By the time this is out, you can register on my site for it or in at darkstaroracle.com. But it'll be on Zoom, and I will talk a little bit about the astrology, but also talk about I'm going to bring through a channeling from my guides on kind of the energy that is coming through, as well as energetic processes that we'll do within the class to help move and shift energy. The goal is to get whatever you need to get out of it, as well as connect more deeply to your spirit team. And then I'm going to be doing a mini reading, like a psychic reading for each person in the event. And I'm going to limit it to like 8 people. So it'll be a small group event. But I'm really excited. I think it's going to be powerful and fun and new. So I hope you join me for that. And you can also book a session with me on my website as well. And you can book a session with Aster too. On all the things that you do as well. So do you have anything else you want to talk about or plug or offer?
Yeah, just be gay, do spell crime.
Yeah. This is a 2-hour recording. We're tired. We're
Jesus
like,
Christ.
Oh,
I'm tired of talking to you. Bye.
Oh, that's the butt of my stuffed animal. This is the front. But yeah, you can find me at darkstaroracle.com or on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook actually too now at Darkstar Oracle as well. And then all my links are going to be in the show notes and comments below.
Same links are down below. Join the 3 Cup Circle community. It's something that just started. You'll be one of the first people joining. We have an opportunity to shape this and to make it whatever we want. It's not connected to any external entities like Meta or Oracle. So you are free to talk about the things that you want to talk about there. And that's what I'll leave it at.
And if you like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, the podcast, like, and give us a comment. Also, let us know how you're feeling this energy and kind of what's coming through for you this full moon. So, peace.
Later.